Hello everybody and welcome back to another video and welcome back to another review of mine. Last week I reviewed the first Hammer film, The Curse of Frankenstein. Now today I'm going to review 1958's Hammer film Dracula. Once again starring Peter Cushing as Professor Van Helsing and Christopher Lee as Count Dracula, and also again directed by Terence Fisher. This is the second Hammer film to be released. This one was made in 1958. The first one was The Curse of Frankenstein, which was made in 1957. This one, like I've said, starring Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee, was one of the better Dracula films, which we all know and love. Like I've said in my video last week, we had the Universal monster movies of old Dracula. Bela Lugosi, he played Dracula. That was in the 1930s. But this one is more modern and up to date. This one is starring Peter Cushing as Professor Van Helsing, who is going looking for vampires, and he does his bit of vampire slaying. Peter Cushing went from playing Baron Frankenstein in The Curse of Frankenstein to uh, destroying vampires. And in this one we have Christopher Lee, Count Dracula. Now, when Christopher Lee made his first entrance as Count Dracula, it was said that his first appearance frightened the life out of everybody. When he came walking down those steps to meet uh, Jonathan Archer, who himself is a vampire slayer. Well, he's same as Peter Cushing, who is trying to rid the world of vampires. And of course, unfortunately for Jonathan Archer, who is the character in the Dracula film, he becomes a vampire himself. And of course, Peter Cushing goes looking for him, who is his friend. And he discovers that Jonathan Archer is a vampire himself, and of course, he has to destroy him by putting a stake through his heart. And of course, it then leads to Van Helsing, Peter Cushing, trying to end Dracula's reign of terror. And of course, along the way, he's got his usual brides, his vampire brides, which is the local women that he's turned into vampires, and they have to be destroyed as well. But like I've said, this one was the second one to feature Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee. This one was made in 1958, and it was caused quite a stir on its release. And it's, well, like I've said, it scared the life out of everybody who went to see it. as it says on the front of the cover here, the Blu-ray cover, it says, "Don't dare see it alone." Well, it was probably scary for then in 1958, but it's it's a bit tame with today's standards of horror, well, what horror films used to be. But going back to this movie, Peter Cushing, like I say, he plays Van Helsing, and he has to finally put an end to Dracula. And of course, you know what Dracula used to do to his victims. He used to seduce them. He used to hypnotize them and succumb to his will. And it involves a lot of sexuality, really. There was one scene in the film that caused quite a stir for the censors then, when Dracula is looking for his next victim. And it was caused, caused quite a stir with the censors. And they think that wanted that one scene to be cut out of the movie. But it was left in, which if it had been cut out, well, it would have spoilt the movie itself. But then, of course, and like I've said, Peter Cushing, Van Helsing, he has to hunt Dracula down and put an end to his evil doings. And of course, the sets were absolutely brilliant, what they did to these sets with these movies. And of course, we come to the end of the movie when Peter Cushing, Van Helsing, finally tracks Dracula down to his castle. And of course, we all know what happens in the end of the movie, don't we? Him and Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee have a fight, and Dracula hypnotizes Van Helsing and almost turns him into a vampire. But of course, Van Helsing, Peter Cushing, escapes Dracula, and he jumps on a table and he runs to some curtains, opens the curtains, and of course, vampires are supposed to be vulnerable to sunlight. And of course, you know what happens. Then Van Helsing finds a couple of candlestick, candlesticks, and he uses them as a crucifix to destroy, finally end Dracula. I think the audience found that ending rather gruesome as well for the time. When, like I've said, for the time, I'm amazed how two candle holders, well, two candlesticks, can be used as a crucifix and to destroy somebody. The special effects, how they did that was brilliant. I should like to know how they did that. I shall have to look it up on in the documentary of Dracula. I dare say there's one around somewhere. And of course, it all ends with Dracula being turned to dust, and his reign of terror comes to an end. Well, that's the end of this second review of mine. I hope you've enjoyed it. I don't know how many views I will get for this video, but still, I don't really mind. If I only get one view, it's something. But anyway, as I said, this is the end of this another review, and I'll see you all again in another one.